Greetings, theists and non-theists. I'm the Atheist Paladin. As a part of addendum to my last video on nuclear power, one advantage I also forgot to mention is a lot of these reactors can also produce hydrogen at almost no additional cost because of the way they operate, at the temperatures they operate. And so they can actually produce hydrogen. So keep that in mind when I go into the hydrogen section and having the hydrogen economy. But what I'm going to talk about here is wind power. Now, wind power, there's definitely one big drawback. Some people don't like having big-ass wind turbines in their own backyard. And we all know the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about the big old three-blade called the horizontal wind turbine design, which is quite classic. There are also many different ways to design a wind turbine, and that isn't the only way a wind turbine can be. But when it comes to those sorts of models, and when we're looking at where we can harvest the best, and it turns out America, if we fully utilize every inch of wind power in the United States, we'll have enough power to actually power the wind, be powered by wind twice over. Of course, if you actually do it that way, that wouldn't always work out because summer levels drop, and we'll actually, and that's when times peak. So that's when we'll have a defect. But we're not going to be using pure wind. But there is a benefit to wind. Obviously, no greenhouse gases, which is always great. But another problem people give when it comes to wind power is that well, the wind's not always blowing, such as the effect I just described. Well, in order to get into that, I have to get into smart grid technologies and battery technologies. So we'll actually save that for later, but that turns out it's not quite a problem. It can be dealt with. It's not something that completely defeats wind power or any renewable energy. It's easily surmountable. But one of the problems with these, especially the classic big wind turbine conditions, is that they're vulnerable to different wind directions. Now, they do have technological updates that allow the blades and the turbines to spin and counter a little bit. This is fine. This is good. But a new way is the vertical axis design, and they can typically actually operate at lower wind speeds and run off wind almost any direction. Another benefit of the vertical design is that you can actually have it not only have the generating base at ground level, which makes it easy to perform maintenance. You can also have it the turbine spin actually on top of a magnet, be levitated off a magnetic field. This, of course, reduces friction, which further reduces maintenance costs. Furthermore, wind power overall is showing to be more cost benefit, that it's more competitive with coal. So it's becoming more competitive with coal, and coal is one of the cheap sources. So wind is getting to the place to where it's actually being quite a good power source. So so what do we do with wind power? Well, most likely will be mostly offshore, because that's largely how the Danish and other countries do it. We got a lot of wind power we can put offshore, so we don't have to worry about, not in my backyard. And we can also put a lot of wind turbines, which seems like most states are now already doing, is putting them up in the Tornado Alley sort of area. And a lot of those states are taking advantage of the wind power right there. Now we can also do it across America, and as of course we can also put them on houses. With the vertical design, we can actually scale them down and we can put them on houses. So the advantages with that is some of these designs can actually be put in urban areas and in cities and on houses and on all sorts of buildings, particularly across certain peaks of buildings for which the air tends to rush. And we can actually take advantage of this energy. So using wind power as a source of renewable energy is completely possible and almost undeniable. So with that, I think I am done with wind power.